Hello. Have you been hearing about all the legal issues and battles surrounding short-term rentals that are happening all around the United States? Because it's pretty much everywhere right now. And it seems like from small towns to big cities, everyone has something to say about short-term rentals and Airbnbs and are either in the process of or talking about doing some kind of legal actions. Well, Julia and I are here in Breckenridge, Colorado, where we were one of the first major resort communities to make national headlines on this issue. And since our story broke last fall, we've had some legal movement that we would like to keep you updated on.
That's true. Chantal, thanks for the little information background there. We had a town hall meeting I attended this week that was informative by a group that has organized to push back to hopefully put forth a lawsuit against the town of Breckenridge in regards to our new in the past couple of years, short-term rental ordinances. There's some changes that happened after kind of through COVID that heavily restricted certain areas, as you know, Chantal. We have a lot of different clients that own properties or looking to buy properties in Breckenridge and Summit County that have to really be careful of where you're buying and know these new ordinances and regulations. Chantal, as you know, Summit County, Breckenridge area is, a couple different things where ordinances going on.
Actually, Julia, I was wondering maybe just for some people following us who haven't like totally understood what's going on in Breckenridge, but are either interested in what we're doing, maybe give us just a little basic background of like what are these ordinances you're talking about? What did they do? Like what
Sure.
did the town council?
Sure. So, first thing is to be aware, and this is for our viewers everywhere, aware that just because you might have a Breckenridge address doesn't mean that these ordinances necessarily apply to your property. Breckenridge addresses run from what we call Farmers Corner, where Swan Mountain and Highway 9 intersect, to south of the end of Summit County at the top of Hoosier Pass. Any property along in there will have a Breckenridge address. Some of those might be in unincorporated Breckenridge, some of those might be in Blue River, some of those might be in town Breckenridge. So the in town Breckenridge properties, there are four zones to be aware of. One is a resort zone, then zone one, two, three. And where your property lies means what your availability will be of acquiring a short-term rental license. The resort zone for now is something that has condo complexes that maybe have a front desk, have a shuttle. There's kind of a list of things that will classify a property as a resort zone.
Yes,
The,
resort
go ahead.
zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give Julia a pause there for a second just to say the resort zones, they sound great because they have no restrictions on their short-term rentals. So we have had people say, well, great, I'll just buy in the resort zone. And, there are caveats to that. The resort zones, they're often the most expensive, higher HOAs. They might be in a location you don't necessarily want to buy. Not everyone wants to be in those areas. So we also want to give you some input then on the other zones, right? So there's zone one, two, and three outside of resorts. And I'll let Julia take back over, maybe explain a little what zone one, two, three means.
Yeah, that's true. Those are some very good points, Chantal. The zone one, there's a map, and you can see that map here that of the different areas. Most of Breckenridge is in zone three. I think it's about 80% of properties are in zone three. So you can zoom in closely, but it's probably easier to go on a map, the GIS map. The town has it, the Summit County has it, or of course you can, reach out to us. But the zone one seems to have the most availability for potential short-term rental licenses. There is no wait list as of now. Zone 2 is a very small area, kind of French Street, that has a very small wait list. Zone 3 has a massive wait list for short-term rental licenses.
Massive,
Talking
massive. I mean, Julia, can you give even just some rough numbers that have been thrown out there in terms of if I wanted to go on that wait list today, how long might I be on that list?
it's the hope for the town, while their talk of making these ordinance was through attrition, that as properties sell, the new owners cannot acquire a short-term rental license. Predictions for how long it would take for those properties to sell would be 20 to 30 years. Yeah.
Wow, like that's, I mean, that's the eye opener right there is that, as Julia said, the majority of Breckenridge homes fall into that zone 3. And can you imagine waiting upwards of 20 years on a wait list? I mean, even half of that 10 years is that's a lot.
It's a long time. It seems a long time with uncertainty too of even then of what would happen is it there's no guarantee that we will sell that number of properties to even get to 20 or 30 years. You may have seen some of Chantal and my earlier videos through the year where we talked about low inventory. Is that part of it? Maybe. Is the interest rates? Sure, sellers aren't selling. There's a lot of things happening with the inventory, but zone 3, we just don't know. It's a big sort of question mark right now. In comes the potential lawsuit that will, the deadline for the statute of limitations is November 1st. The organization Property Owners for Property Rights of Colorado really wants to make sure that they hit all of the points that they feel would potentially be illegal. Some of the fees, the bedroom fees, they feel that that's maybe an illegal tax. So they want to make sure that if there's going to be regulations in the town of Breckenridge, that they are legal, fair, and best for our community overall. Right, Chantal.
That right there is, something in our resort community. I think that comes up a lot is what's best for us, the same as what's best for Denver or for Cape Cod or New York City, right? They're not the same
Yeah.
everywhere. And this is why here in Breckenridge, as Julia said, the Colorado Property Owners for Property Rights organization got started to really defend what's best for Colorado and what's best for Breckenridge, Colorado.
And what is best, even for then understanding that this could potentially change how short-term rental laws and rules are handled in Colorado and across the country. We are seeing, as Chantal had mentioned, it's talk of the town, big, little, everywhere. I mean, my parents in Illinois, they talk about it in their small town in Illinois. So short-term rentals, how they're handled and how our rights to our properties are handled are very much in the eye of America. And what happens in Breckenridge could affect many different towns and communities, and how we just handle short-term rentals. Obviously, we understand some of the complaints and some of the issues. We want short-term rentals to be good neighbors, just like we want good neighbors for all of our second homeowners and our long-term locals as well. But there's hopefully a better way as a community to find common ground in a predominantly second home vacation rental market.
Exactly. Bingo, Julia. I don't know if I could have said it better myself, right? Find that balance here in a tourist town. So many of us moved here for the mountains, for the summers, the winters, the falls, the skiing, the hiking, right? And
Yeah.
many people visit because of it. And so many of us know that when we moved here, we moved to a vacation resort community. And so finding that balance of keeping the heart of that alive. But those of us who live here full time, making it comfortable as a primary residence, there's just so many balances in there. And again, though, there are legal issues as well with property rights. And, if you really wanted to deep dive, clearly we have a lot of thoughts on this, and we'd love to even just chat with you if you have
Yeah.
questions, if you want to know about this Colorado Property Owners for Property Rights Organization. And really, I mean, one big thing is if you're interested in these zones, right?
Yeah.
What where are these zones? We've explained that there's 4 of them. Not everyone in a Breckenridge, zip code is in them, and it can be definitely confusing. And our profession is that we are realtors, and we're here to help you and be your easy button for everything, and that includes where do I live, where am I buying in. And so if you have any of those
Yeah.
questions, about the zones, about the legal issues, anything, contact us. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Feel free to reach us in all the different ways, our website, text, email, all of those things. You can contact us to find out where your property is located, or where a property that you might be interested in is located, or where you should look, actually. We touched on briefly the unincorporated Summit County. There's also some ordinances there that we are keeping our eyes on, and some lawsuits there. Suit was filed in federal court against some of the actions in Summit County and the restrictions that happen there. So you might have a Breckenridge property on Peak 7 that is affected with that. And that's important to be aware of. There's just a lot happening, isn't there, Chantal? Knowing where your property is going to be imperative, and understanding what your regulation and ordinances are. So reach out to myself, Julia, or Chantal. We can definitely help where the location is. And please tune in for the next video on Summit County and what's happening with those ordinances and that lawsuit, because there's some good things happening there in the forefront for short-term rental owners in Colorado.